You're up. Oh, I'm up.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we all kind of got together and planned this, before there was ever a plan, when the hurricane hit, I just kind of felt moved to see if I could help in any way. And there was actually a video I watched of a family that was about the age of mine and my wife's, and they had a 3-year-old son that they lost due to the flood. And in that, I mean, anybody would. In that moment, I thought, well, if that was me, I'd want any help I could get. So I called Dad, which he's done the Mexico ministries for a while, he did, and asked him how he did it. Well, he said he got people together on donations and help with monetary donations, and then sending stuff and stuff like that, people to help float bills at home. And so I got with Brad and Misty, talked to them just looking for their advice, and they helped me out. And then they ended up talking to their son Logan, and he said, well, he's on board to go, that he had felt like he was led to go down there. So we, in a week and a half,
About a week and a half, yeah.
about a week and a half, we threw together a trip and took off. And about 4 days before we left, we had a contact up there that was messaging us, texting us, calling us. We were talking back and forth, and they had everything that we knew, everything on their end lined up. And then about 4 days before we left, they dropped all contact. 100% across the board, there was no contact. They were still posting stuff on Facebook, but they forgot about us. And so we all fairly agreed we're still going to drive to the town they were going to send us to. And we got up there, and we went to the place they were going to be. Nobody was there, still couldn't get a hold of them. And kind of, I don't think any of us said it, but we were kind of all like, uh-oh, you know. And we went to a fire department, a local, is it volunteer?
Volunteer fire department.
Small volunteer fire department. And he gave us some numbers of some people down there, volunteer groups. And I called them, and it was, you can volunteer any day of the week, but you can only sign up on Saturdays. Well, we were there Monday through Friday. And so I went through every Facebook site I could find on Asheville, those local counties, the other local towns, and ran into the name Red Truck Men. And we all agreed we're going to drive towards the disaster zone kind of blindly. And halfway there or so, I made a phone call. A guy named John picked up.
Somehow, he's not telling you this, but somehow Caleb did his computer magic and got the director of Red Truck Men's personal phone number. I don't know how he did that, but if the FBI needs help. Go ahead.
So I talked to him, and I said, we drove 18 hours from Texas. We're here. We want to work. We're not above handing out stuff or anything, but we really want to be on the ground, heavy work if we can. And this guy, he was just on fire. That we had driven 18 hours. By the time we got there, we were on 19 of driving. And we told him, we can go to work, but we might need to take a nap in the truck. And he said, nope. He said, everything's covered by us. We'll put you in a room. We'll feed y'all and everything. And when we left, we had fully prepared to be sleeping in the woods. Every one of us brought a cot, sleeping bags, a couple tents, 100% across the board. We were going to sleep in the woods. And then that was the first big miracle went from lost our contact, had no idea where we were headed to now we're staying in rooms with a roof and a heater, running water, and food provided, and they got all the work we can do. And This was the first day. This was when we just got there. I don't know. So the bottom right, that's our dorm, and it was a 2-bedroom dorm, and it's an old college. You want to emphasize on that one?
Yeah, it is. It's Montreat Presbyterian College. It's literally right down the road from Billy Graham's home. In fact, one of the jobs that Red Truckmen had right after we left was they were going to be sending a team to Billy Graham's daughter's house to re-roof her house. She got a tree through her roof, and that was one of the jobs they were going to be doing. But we were blessed. It was they were in the middle of remodeling these dorm rooms, so they weren't fit for college kids, but they were fit for 3 guys that were willing to sleep on the floor. So it was a blessing, huge blessing. You got anything?
Y'all are doing just fine.
You can narrate that.
Just a little bit about Red Truckmen. You can go online and look them up. Like Caleb said, when Caleb got a hold of John, who is the on-site director for Red Truckmen, what they're a Christian organization of men that want to gather at least once a month and just help each other. Really, their motto is a safe place for dangerous conversations. They are 100% Christian. Every morning we had a kind of a pep talk and a devotion with John, the director. They're all about prayer. They're all about, we are working on starting a chapter. It'll be the first Texas chapter of Red Truckmen. And the name Red Truck comes from the fact that all of us men as little boys, we would see a red fire engine going down the road and our eyes were on it and we wanted to be a part. So that's where they got the name Red Truckmen. Did I do that good? Did that work?
We didn't read anything. No.
I didn't read it.
No, you're good. I think that's your story there.
That's my, okay. Here's I told my church congregation this story last week, but I'll repeat it really quick. After we took our nap, our first assignment was to go to like an apartment complex, townhomes, if you would, for older people. And they had lost all electricity, all water, everything. And the water was not drinkable. And there were 2 ladies that lived there that just happened to be the youngest ladies that lived in the complex. And they took it upon themselves to make sure that all of the elderly people were taken care of, that they had food. They would go across the road to the creek and get water and haul it up the hill over the parking lot to these people so they could flush their toilets. I mean, amazing. You gotta, there they are. They're Edwina and Julia. Edwina like me to call her Eddie, but just sweet, sweet ladies. But they had a monster tree that fell in their parking lot, so they had no place to park. And our first job was to clear that big tree out. Well, they wanted us to leave the trunk laying down because that's where number 5 rested in the afternoon. Let me tell you the story about number 5. When we got done, I asked her, I said, is there anything else we can do for you? And she said, well, do you know anything about plumbing? I think I've got a leak in my apartment. I said, yeah, I'll be glad to look at it. I don't know if I can fix it, but I'll look at it. So as we're walking around the back of her house, she stops and looks under the porch. And she said, I just wanted to see if number 5 was there. And I said, who's number 5? Oh, that's the bear. And I looked under that porch, and it was a bear's bedroom. There was a big hole dug out in the dirt under the porch where the bear slept. Well, right next door to where the bear slept was the door under the house that I had to crawl into to go cut the water off. They don't do like smart people in Texas and put the water cut off at the curb. They put it under the house. Well, I'm standing there looking with the flashlight, and she's like, well, are you going to go under there? And I said, yeah. She said, well, what are you looking for? And I said, the bear. I didn't get to meet number 5, praise the Lord. He was in the neighbor's yard eating acorns. But just that was our first assignment, was just to move some limbs, get our feet wet, get to know the people and what they were going through. So go ahead. Next. You got anything on that? I'm going to make you talk before this is over. You know that, don't you?
We have a whole slide about him.
Okay.
We have a whole slide for him.
A whole slide for him.
Is it good or is it bad?
Oh, it's bad.
Okay.
Snoring, mostly.
So these are some of the other people we met. McKenna, and then her massive dog Smokes, and so her house was actually affected by it. I know some trees fell and stuff like that, and even with that, she was up there at the Red Truck Men, the volunteer area, helping out with anything she could. She was their inventory person, and without even worrying about her stuff, she jumped and ran to volunteer. And then the third person, Tom Carty, it's kind of a hard picture of him, but that is the definition of an Appalachian outlaw. And he was saying he had a pretty nice house up on the mountain, and he was saying that when everything first happened, his little truck couldn't get to town, but he wanted to do something to help. I don't know if this is church appropriate, but he had 30 gallons of moonshine sitting at his house, and so he took it to his friend that had a four-wheeler, and he four-wheeled it into town, and they sold it, and they donated all that moonshine money to the cause. And
hey, the church can use the devil's money.
You want to touch on Kimberly?
Yeah, the lady, and we're going to speak a little more about her in a few minutes, but the other lady, Kimberly, she lives in Burnsville, and you're going to hear a lot in a moment about Burnsville. But she lives there, and just an amazing lady, just full of grit, is the easiest way to put it. Nothing was going to keep her down. Nothing was going to stop her. They live, it's kind of a family, I'm not going to call it a compound, but Kimberly lives up on the hill, which was mostly protected from the floodwaters, but her daughter and her dad lived down in the holler, basically. That's what they call them. There's hollers. And but just really an amazing lady, and we'll go through a few more slides, but I'll touch on her in a minute.
There you go.
The bridge. You want to talk about the bridge?
Sure. You can hold it.
Okay.
I don't want to drop it. So the bridge was, I guess about, like it says on there, 40 foot long, 12 foot wide. We showed up. There was a 71-year-old man that had started to relay wood on over the top of the bridge. The beams were still there. One side had kind of washed out a little bit, but we had another group out there from Raleigh.
That's the next one.
Okay. They kind of tried to beef up the other side of the bridge, but long story short, the 71-year-old man had basically put himself in the hospital trying to rebuild his bridge, and so we were able to go out there. We got new wood to finish out the bridge. We had a group of guys there that was helping us build the bridge, and we basically just created a big old team, probably about 12 of us.
Yeah.
10, 12.
There was about 12 of us working on this bridge, and we were able to knock it out. And one of the guys was a general contractor that we had to take orders from, basically. he knew what he was doing for the most part. So we took his idea, and it came together real good, and we were able to whip it out within probably a good day's worth of work.
Yeah.
That was pretty neat, though. We all enjoyed that quite a bit. So.
There you go. That's yours.
All right, I want to talk to you about the Banks family. You saw Kimberly on, as it says, on September the 30th when the flood hit. It was literally 30 inches of rain in less than 2 hours. So you can imagine in a low-lying area how fast the water came up. The family was in one of the lower houses down in the holler, and literally the windows busted out with water coming into the house. I forget Avery's mom's name.
Starts with a T. Terma.
I can't remember her name, but she grabbed her 5-year-old daughter and her 11-year-old son and literally swam out of the house, climbed up on a barbecue grill, up on the house to get away from the floodwaters. Well, you have to understand, it is raining like they have never seen rain before, okay? And little Ivory, 5-year-old Ivory, slid off of the roof into the floodwaters that are now moving. Her 11-year-old brother, without hesitation, jumped in the water and saved her. The whole time, this is a picture of her brother. When I took that picture, her mom had turned away because her mom was crying. But that's Maverick, her 11-year-old brother. And he's a pretty good-sized boy, but he's one of them hillbilly mountain boys. But he jumped in the water and saved his little sister. All the while, she's crying out, "Jesus save me, Jesus save me." And
It is kind of hot in here.
But while we were there, talking to Kimberly, that's the grandmother, talking to Kimberly just about all the miracles there. You're going to see in a moment, you'll see a picture of a bus. And when I say a bus, I mean a real bus, big bus, that had come downstream. Did they know where that bus came from or who owned it? Or it belonged to the neighbor. Well, it barrel rolled in the flood waters and hit a couple of trees, landed on its side. You can see it's the middle picture. Landed on its side against these trees. Well, that diverted the flood water around the homes, the force of the water. They say had the force of the water hit the homes, it would have wiped them off the foundations. All of them would have been killed had it not been for this bus hitting those trees. You know, the water came up, but the force was not there to move the houses. It moved other houses. We literally saw blank foundations where there used to be a house. But anyway, Maverick saved his sister's life that day. It was an amazing thing, and he was just like, it's what I had to do. You know, it's what I had to do. But while we were there, we mucked out Grandpa's house. That's another miracle. Grandpa kind of had dementia. A lot. And they found him the next morning, still alive, in the garage of the house, in 3 feet of mud. Literally in 3 feet of mud. How he survived the night, nobody knows. But he's alive today, and that is a miracle.
I think they said he was trying to go get in the vehicle and go get some pizza after.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. He wanted to go get pizza. But it was wild. This next picture you'll see is the inside of Grandpa's bedroom. That is 3 steps down. Okay? There was a foot of mud in the upper part of the house and almost, knee deep, almost 3 feet of mud in this lower portion where the bedroom was. And just horrific. And that picture you see of Washington crossing the Delaware, the water got up to the bottom of the picture at almost 6 feet is how high the water was in that house. And that's some more pictures of their yard. And you'll notice the middle picture is I think it's a van that is nose down in the river. And you'll notice that there is a orange X on it.
With a date.
it's where the authorities immediately after the flood were looking for bodies, and that just signifies that this vehicle's been checked. And it was crazy. It was really crazy to see all that. You got the next one?
Oh yeah.
I want you to tell about Linda.
So Linda was a 62-year-old lady that had driven from Colorado. She had broke her foot right before she left, took all the savings out of her bank account, and decided she was going to be going out to North Carolina. She didn't know what had led her to do that. She just felt like she needed to. The doctor told her, no, you need to stay here. We need to have surgery on your foot. She said, no, I can do that whenever I get back. I'm going out there to help. She got in her car. It was a 25-hour drive for her by herself. So, we were kind of bragging about our 18-hour drive from Texas. And then she told me that, and I was like, well, I don't really feel,
That bad.
Yeah. So she basically outdid us on the drive. But she drove out there, and I had noticed her on the first day because she was out on the edge of the little area where we were, kind of operating out of. And she was just had a big old smile on her face. She was kind of wobbling, with her broke foot, and she was just helping whoever came up to her that needed help. And she was serving food the whole time we were there. And I went up and talked to her because I noticed she had needed some help. She was moving stuff by herself, so I went up and I helped her, and we kind of struck up a conversation. And she felt comfortable with me, and I felt comfortable with her. We kind of basically created a friendship. And throughout the week, we'd kind of talked, and I'd go over there and help her after we'd get back to the base, doing what we needed to do during the day, while we were out and about. And then I would go, help her, wash the dishes or do whatever she needed help with. And I got to pull her aside for a good 30 minutes and talk to her about who Jesus was. And it was a very good experience because she was very open to it. She had told me basically her whole life she was not open to religion. She didn't care for it. She was kind of embarrassed that she didn't really know, who Jesus and who God was. And she didn't really want to ask anybody else, but she felt comfortable with me. And I said, well, let's have a conversation with it. And I was able to basically give her the gospel and the good news about who Jesus is. So this morning she actually texted me and said she's at church with her mother.
Yeah.
That was a good feeling. But yeah, it was just a good experience to get to help her. She had, like I said, she had felt comfortable with me, so we got to wash. Caleb and Charlie also got to help me wash her dishes one night. Even though it was a long day, we were ready to go to sleep. We had basically come together and helped her out, and she was super thankful. So it was a good experience.
And she makes some of the best beanie weenies you have ever
Absolutely.
eaten. It was so good, yeah. And she even cooked steak for us one night. It was good stuff.
Yeah, she told me, she said, Logan, now don't you go eat that other food. I'm saving 3 steaks for you, Charlie, and Caleb. So you come see me when you get done with the day.
Yeah.
We'll feed you steak. I said, all right.
I'll wash dishes for steak.
Yeah.
There's proof Logan can do dishes.
Hey, don't look, Steph. I'm not washing the dishes there.
Yeah, so this is a main road right there in Black Mountain, and it's actually not really far from our base camp we were at. But that, some of the people that were in our group chat, that's where we videoed one of our update videos. And that, they said that creek, it's a river, but more or less like a creek to us, was maybe 10 foot wide, and it did come up, the water did rise and stuff throughout the year. But the picture doesn't do it justice because it's even further back from where Dad took that picture of me. And then if we were there and you look to the left, it's as wide as the Brazos is now. It's insane.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to let you tell about Ron.
I have told about everything. Okay, so Ron and Grant Fox. Ron's the older gentleman in the third picture. Grant is his son that's in the second one holding Ivory. But Ron he was a 72-year-old man, and he had early on Alzheimer's. And I don't know what it was about him, being around him, but it was just like a beacon of light. Everything he did, everything he said, even if he knew he was in the way, it was, to him, it was just the greatest thing to be able to be up there. And with his Alzheimer's, we would go meet somebody new that was coming into base camp or what have you, and they, you introduce yourselves, and they'd ask how long had Ron and them been here. And Ron said, well, I've been here, we've made 4 or 5 trips back and forth up here. And his son Grant looks at him and says, Dad, we've been here 4 or 5 days. He said, well, same to me. And and it was crazy. If we go back to the pictures of with Ivory and them, that was a huge miracle in itself. This is when I met her. I had that little 10-year-old kid inside me that would have wanted to be on that excavator with that guy. So I invited her to ride with me. And that little girl was the light of the day. And I don't know if anybody's ever tried to run equipment with a kid in your lap. It's not like normal running equipment. And she rode with me
3 hours it was.
3 hours or more of the day.
Hold on, I got to interrupt on this. Y'all got to hear this because I don't think he's going to tell it.
Calm down. Calm down.
Caleb asked her to get up in the excavator with him, and he did, and she did, and she was having a ball. But she looked up at Caleb and said, "Can I have your sunglasses? The dust is getting in my eyes." Well, Caleb told me later, out of earshot of everybody else, he said, "Dad, I didn't want to give her my glasses because she would see my eyes sweating." There was not a dry eye around. All these big burly men working their tails off, and Caleb's up there bawling like a baby. But there's another picture. If you can see that center picture, I wish we could blow it up for you, but little Ivory was so comfortable with Caleb in that excavator, she fell asleep in his lap. She fell asleep in his lap, and it was just amazing. It was amazing.
But so the day before we met Ivory and her family, I think this is leaving. Yeah, you don't need one anyway. So the day before we met Ivory and their family, they sent us out on a job, and the details were a lady called in and she needs a power pole, a temporary pole, put up.
Yeah,
well,
this is a great story.
Mr. Logan, being the lineman, it was a perfect job for us, our group. And so we go to town, we go into Asheville, and we go to an electrical store, and I'm glad we had him because he knew what he was talking about. And we bought
About
$600 worth of, it was the meter base, the fuse box, the wire, the weatherhead, everything you need to strap to a pole for it to be ready to send electricity. And we got the concrete for the pole. We were going to pick up the pole the next day for him. Well, I called the owner's phone number, and the husband answered. And I said, "Hey, this is Caleb with Red Truck Men. We're the ones on your work order about your needing a power pole put in and everything installed." And I said, "Would it be okay if we dropped off this meter box, the breaker box, the weatherhead, all that tonight?" Well, he very abruptly told us he did not need any of that, that he only needed a taller pole, that all we had to do was come pull his pole out of the ground, dig it 1 foot deeper, and stick a new one in. And he already had all the weatherhead, the meter base, and the meter box. And that he already had all that, and he doesn't know who told us that he needed all that, but he only needed the pole. So, without saying it again, we were all kind of looking at each other like, oops, because every store that we've been to is already closed, and it was a fair bit of money to put out for that. Well, we got to...
And that was bought, just so you'll know, that was bought with your donations.
Yeah.
And the bridge, the top of the bridge was bought with your donations. So just letting you know that.
When we got to Miss Ivory's house, the Banks family, while we were there working, some organization or something donated them a pretty nice newer camper so that the mom and the kids had somewhere decent to sleep. Well, they parked it by a power pole that was already there, but they didn't have any of the stuff to connect it. So they had the camper, but they weren't going to have electricity. and they went over the list with us of what they needed for electricity. And at the same time, we all three locked eyes on, we have it sitting in the back of our truck, everything on their list. And all we lacked was a pole. We needed the pole. Well, this is where Ron's Alzheimer's didn't hurt him. He said, I was on the excavator tracking somewhere, and he starts hollering at me from across the yard. And he's like, Caleb, there's a power pole right over here under this barn. I remember tripping over it. And I said, well, if he doesn't remember anything the whole trip, that was the best thing he could remember.
And folks, nobody knew where it came from. Mm-hmm. It came from upriver somewhere. No one knew where that power pole came from. Our lineman here looked at it and said, yep, that'll work.
Yeah, and so Grant, Ron's son, Grant, he was in his 30s, I think.
He was like mid-30s.
Mid-30s. So he actually just bought a brand new Bobcat Mini X, and he bought it for his own business, and it's a very, very nice machine. And he, kind of like everybody that was down there, he just felt like the Lord was calling him to go down there. And with that machine, we were able to get more done than I think any of us anticipated. And it was just having them two, when our little crew met with Grant and Ron, there was just a bond or a connection there that
instantly
that no matter the problem, there was never any, if somebody had one idea that differed from the others, nobody was upset about it. It was, let's get this done, no matter how we have to do it. Let's just get work done. And they were a blessing to be around.
Very godly people. Very godly people.
There you go.
What you can do, everyone always asked us, how can we help? Well, as you can see up there, more volunteers. I'm not trying to guilt you into going. It's not easy. There's nothing easy about it. We were basically told in the beginning, from our first contact, be ready, get here, take a nap, get up, get on a helicopter, and we'll probably fly you to the top of a mountain somewhere. That's what we expected. But, walking around in 3 feet of mud, stinky mud, is no fun, but it's what's necessary. I could not be prouder. I will never think, honestly, of the word hillbilly the same way. These are proud people that didn't need FEMA. Do you hear me? We can do it. Give us a little help. Give us a hand up, and we can get it done. The other thing they need is, of course, monetary donations. They are asking now for bottled water. When we first went, they were like, we're drowning in bottled water, but they're again asking for bottled water. The little green propane bottles you see that Coleman uses, they're asking for those. They're running out of those. The little small, they call them buddy burners, the little propane burners you can cook on. And as Caleb put on the slide, above all prayer, I ask you, if you would, that every time you go to the refrigerator, stop before you open the refrigerator and say a prayer for the people of North Carolina. They will be in this shape for 5 years or more. It is, even with all the miracles, these people's lives have been upended. I mean, I don't know, if I heard it once, I heard old veterans telling me this is worse than a war zone. And it was crazy. But one thing I do want to say, that I have never, and I'm going to do my very best not to get emotional, I have never been more inspired than I was by these two young men. I would walk into any war zone with either one of them. I really would. You know, as grown men, we have different minds. We see things differently. But in the end, we were able to come together and get the job done that God gave us to do. Logan, I can't say enough for you, buddy, and I mean that. Logan was our human forklift. This guy can pick anything up. He is strong. But other than that, seeing his godly example. We had some deep, deep conversations on the way there and on the way back. He is a godly man. His wife and children, you got the best. You really did. You got the best. He's amazing.
Did you hear that?
She didn't hear that. You want to repeat it? But awesome young man. I'll go back with you anytime. I'll go into any situation with you. I mean that. And here's where the emotion comes.
It is kind of hot.
My eyes are sweating.
Yeah.
Caleb, I watched, as I told you in my sermon last week, I watched this young man change. I watched him take his eyes off himself and his own situation and put it on everybody else 110%. You know, we never know what leads. Karen, quit crying. You're getting to me. So much that God worked in his life that this morning, some of you know, but I'll tell the rest of you, Caleb did his first, what they call debutation talk. Caleb and Jasmine and the kids will be leaving soon to go back, as long as God will have them there. They've got one church, Calvary Chapel, that has already promised them $500 a month for up to 6 months as they go. And they're going to need our prayers. They're going to need our prayers. It's not going to be easy. And let me say this, especially for Jasmine. It's going to be hard. She's got 4 little ones to deal with. I was in charge of homeschooling the 2 older ones. Now she's got it all. And she is going to need a lot of love, prayer, and support to do this. The Red Truck men have already said, we've got a place for you. We'll take care of you, whatever you'll need. So that's a huge blessing. Folk, especially now that we're in this new building, I want this church to be a missionary church, a mission-minded church. That's what God has called us to do. Go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. Whether it be North Carolina, Mexico, or right down the street. We've got to do that. I just can't emphasize it enough. That's what we need to be about. There was a story last week of the garage sale. A lady kept coming back and coming back and coming back. And boy, if that's not God knocking on the door saying, you need to witness to her, you know, I don't know what it is. But again, I want to thank you guys for allowing us to go be the hands and feet of Jesus. There are going to be other opportunities. I would, if I were you, and I know sometimes I can kind of be hard on this congregation, but pray about what God would have you to do. You know, it's not all about building up New Vision Family Fellowship. Awesome church, awesome people, but it's about out there. You know, it's about out there. Just so you'll know, your pastor is going to be meeting with Brother Larry and another pastor here next week, actually, or maybe the 9th, right? Just so that, yeah, is it on the calendar? Next week. Okay. We're going to be meeting, and we're going to be talking about the direction of this church. You know, I can't do it alone. I need wisdom. The Bible says wisdom is found in many counselors, and that's what we're doing. But I would just ask you guys to pray for this young man. He's got some of our tracts in his lineman truck, so he's out there preaching the gospel. Pray for his family. Definitely pray for Caleb, and pray for Cindy and I as God has had us to lead this little congregation. We need it. But again, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you. And I don't want to close real quick. I want to ask these guys one more question, and I'm going to put you on the spot. We know you got to witness to Linda, but was there anything else that was maybe significant spiritually that you experienced?
I was talking to Mom and Dad last night. I was just telling them, you know, as we were going around to all the locations and coming across the people that had, you know, maybe lost something, lost a loved one, or anything like that, how I really respected how you were always the first one to just, you know, what, you want to pray? Let's pray about it. And how we went through and prayed through each person and whatever situation they were going through. And, you know, that just kind of, I work for Encore, and I'm a lineman, so, you know, I come across a lot of people every day. And, you know, I come across people with those same stories that, you know, they lost something, or something happened to them big in their life, and it, you know, maybe changed their trajectory. And, you know, I would just use that to say that,
There you go, buddy.
like Charlie said, we are called to go out into the world and preach the gospel. So even just a little prayer for somebody that we come across every day is, you know, it could mean it could be a matter of life and death for them. You know, if you come across them and you pray for them, and, you know, God opens up their heart. You know, that meant a lot to see you just instantly go, well, let us pray for you. And everyone was so open to it, and I need to do that more in my life, a little bit more for anyone I come across. So that was
cool.
That was awesome.
Thank you for that. How about you, boss?
So, and it's kind of at home and there. Before we left, I had given my notice at work, and corporate rule is you give 2 weeks notice before you want to take a vacation. So I give them 2.5, and we went. The closer we got to going, the more hesitant they were about, are you sure you're going? Are you sure you're going? Are you sure you're going? Well, me and Jasmine the whole time are like, well, you know, if you don't come back to a job, that's not a very good situation, having 4 kids. And when we went down there, it kind of opened my eyes to how small our problems are. And it wasn't that those people didn't have a job, but not only did they not have a job, they didn't have a car. One family lost 13 members alone. They didn't have a house to stay in. They have everybody in their neighbor donating stuff, but they don't have anywhere to put it. And it's like coming home to no job was just this overwhelming piece that's a tiny problem in this situation, you know. And, you know, for both of us, there was just this, I think I may be saying it for her, but there was this overwhelming piece about whatever the next move is, God's got it. God had those people through all that. Whatever our next move is, He'll be there.
Amen. Amen. Well, that's the presentation. We're going to open it up. I'm going to give us about 15 minutes here. We're already running a little longer than we normally do, but do you have any questions for me or one of these guys?
I think the important one is how are we getting the money to Caleb? Somebody here needs to be getting the money in their account or something to make sure they get what's going to
Yeah.
them as soon as possible.
I'm going to take, normally, and I'm a little bit new to doing this, but if it's okay with Ronnie, can we just kind of have a separate account for, there are missionaries. They are missionaries out of this church. And if you want to give, it's hard for me to say that. If you want to give to Caleb and Jasmine and the mission work that they're going to do, give it to Ronnie. Make sure it's designated.
Make sure it's laid out to New Vision Family Fellowship Church, and it'll go into our bank under a different, special account,
Yeah,
which would be North Carolina.
yeah. So do that. Did everybody hear that okay? Yeah, all right. Just make sure that the money, you make out checks to New Vision Family Fellowship and give them to Ronnie, and he will put them in a designated account for Caleb and Jasmine's living expenses while they're in North Carolina. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have an idea of how much they're going to need to have monthly to do this?
Roughly, with all of our camper payments and a truck and stuff like that, we're really thinking around $2,500. And that's, now granted, that should be less because Red Truck Men agreed to feed us 3 meals a day, and they're picking up our lot rent with the camper, which I don't know if there's any money being put out there, but the lot rent is on them, they said. And so that's kind of the ballpark around what we're aiming for. But our plan is to, any money that comes in, if we have the money to pay our bills, we're going to pay our bills, and the rest, if we just come up with a wad of cash, it's going to go towards another bridge or another light pole, whatever we can just give it back to, and that's kind of our plan.
They're going with a little bit of seed money. There was roughly $3,200 or something like that. I don't remember the exact number that was left over from our trip. But most of the ones that we've spoken to that have contributed, especially large sums, have agreed. Whatever Caleb needs it for, the trip-wise, he can use it. And so, any other questions?
Have y'all talked to Ivy's family since?
Yes, we have. We spoke on the phone the other evening with Ivory's family, and they're holding their own. Samaritan's Purse was supposed to bring a group out, I think yesterday, tomorrow, and to start removing sheetrock out of the houses. So they've got 2 houses there that need, we got the mud out. Now the pulling the sheetrock out and the insulation and actually getting them dry is what they're trying to do. And Samaritan's Purse is supposed to be doing that. They don't have any way to hook that camper up to any kind of sewage at all. We hunted and hunted and hunted for the septic tank, and we never could find it. We actually think it may have shifted or moved in the flood. We don't know, but so we gave them instructions on how to use an alternate toilet system like what Cindy and I use at our house. And she was very open to it, very, very open to it, because there's no way, they can't pull that camper once a week up and down that mountain to go find a dump station. So, they have to do something. But they're doing good, and little Katie is excited to go play with Ivory. So they're going to do it. Yes, sir.
I know I missed a day or two, but did we do the garage sale?
Yes, they did that.
Yeah, we did the garage sale, and for those of you that didn't find out, the garage sale raised just over $1,000 for the building fund. So those of you that came to the garage sale, thank you. Thank you, thank you. And all of those that volunteered and helped at the garage sale. I know that was a huge undertaking, and you did a great job. You really did. Any other questions?
Okay, I have one more.
Yeah.
So, Caleb has gotten with a few people about bringing pork up to North Carolina.
Oh,
Yeah.
Have you been able to talk to anybody else about that? Have you got anywhere else about that?
So one thing, when I was talking to John at Red Truck Men and Dylan, they're two guys that work there. John's the main guy. They need things they can freeze. And a lot of the donations coming in are like boxed macaroni and stuff like that. Well, they're feeding a lot of men 3 meals a day, and all the families that are coming into town 3 meals a day. And so I had the wild hair idea of, between myself and there's another guy up the road in Golson that raise pigs, if we could get enough money or somebody to donate together, and we could get one of these big hogs butchered and take it in coolers with us, because sausage is easy to store. It doesn't take up much room in big walk-in freezers, and it would go far. One big hog butchered all the way out of nothing but sausage would go very far up there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's something else. I urge you to, when you get home today, go online and look at the Red Truck Men. It's a tremendous, many of us older guys remember Promise Keepers. It's a lot like Promise Keepers, with the exception of they don't have the giant stadium events. This is local men getting together once a month over breakfast, at somebody's house or out in a cornfield or wherever they happen to be, and fellowshipping. And like I said, their motto is a safe place for dangerous conversations. Men are greatly ministered to. Some of the volunteers. I met one guy, Big Mike, and Big Mike was big. He had the right name. Former prisoner, felon, biker gangs, the whole 9 yards. But he knew Jesus. And I mentioned it was kind of funny, because I mentioned a verse. We were talking about the Bible, and I mentioned a verse, and I heard this big booming voice behind me that said, "Preacher, are you sure you're not taking that verse a little bit out of context?" And I turned around and looked up, and there's a giant of a man looking at me. I'm like, whatever you say. But it was awesome. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Do any of the families you talk to, do they have jobs? Are they able to still go to a job, or do they have, what kind of?
They are. I know that Kimberly's daughter works, and I think they've got another daughter that also works in town.
Donated cars.
Yeah, they've got donated cars. Their cars were ruined.
Yeah.
We pulled out a pickup, another car, and then what used to be the most beautiful antique Mustang that was buried under two or three giant trees. Don't know who it belonged to, but it was sad to see this beautiful antique ruined. But yeah, they do have outside jobs, most of them. Yeah, I mean, they're hardworking people. They really are. One more question. Anybody? All right. Well, let's do this. Let's all stand, and we'll close in prayer. And I urge you, come by, hug Logan's neck, hug Caleb's neck, and we'll close it up. Let's bow. Lord, we love you today, Father. And God, we thank you that we have a testimony. Lord, it's because of you that this happened. Lord, I can't say enough, Lord, about how much you love us, how much you care about us, and Lord, how you make the way straight, Lord. God, Lord, I just can't say it enough, that we owe it all to you. You are the Alpha and the Omega. Lord, you're the father to the fatherless. Lord, you're the the hand up in a flood, Lord. You pull us literally, Lord, out of the miry clay, and you set our feet on a rock. God, I thank you for all those that are assembled here today. I thank you for these young men that are up on this stage with me. I pray you bless them, Lord. Let them tell this testimony far and wide, Lord. And God, we especially lift up Caleb and Jasmine and Katie and Audie and Autumn and Jordan, Lord, as they embark on heading to North Carolina, Lord, to do your work. I pray you bless them, keep them. Keep this family, Lord, this family of God that we have here. And we're going to thank you for all of it. We love you and we praise your holy name. Amen.